All right, you guys, I really got pulled out of bed to deliver this message. What's been coming through so strongly is, why are you taking this so seriously? Why is your life dependent on the outcome of this particular thing? And if this is for you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's interesting that I've got my Six of Embers at the back of my deck. This is like the Six of Wands in the traditional deck, a victory card. So this is your confirmation that you really have nothing to worry about. But what was coming through so strongly, and this was a message I got from my guides earlier today, is what we consider human rights in our country. This is specifically if you are in the United States. That we consider housing, food, clean water, right? Those kinds of things are human rights in our country. But our drinking water is dirty, our food is poisoned, and people can't afford fucking housing. So at what point do we realize that none of these things that we have been offered or have been told are rights? They're just a set of privileges. And that when you start to look at these things as privileges instead of rights, you don't feel so victimized when you don't have them or when they aren't offered to you, because that's kind of part of the ploy, right? Is that you're told these things are your inherently belong to you for just existing, and they get taken away, or they're threatened all the time, which makes you feel like a piece of you is threatened. And that's kind of the point. Interesting where I've got the cosmic tree and the Six of Birds here, and infinite paths. Oh, I love that. That there is divine guidance at play here, where this is a plane in turbulence. This plane's going down, and that's kind of what life feels like for you right now. That based on these things, these rights that you think that you have. So if you're facing like a housing crisis or not having enough food around, because this is something that I had to reframe for myself, that it's, if you start to see it as a privilege, it doesn't hit as hard. That sort of, many of us have been breaking like ancestral trauma, like generational curses, that kind of thing, and have been reminded that we also have ancestral gifts to call upon. And this is what you're being asked to call upon right now, is that there is an ancestor that, like, what you're living right now was a pipe dream to them, that they have lived a life where shelter wasn't guaranteed, where food wasn't guaranteed, where, you know, clean drinking water wasn't a guarantee. They weren't even considered human rights. They were considered privileges. Call on them to get through your hardest aspect, because there is someone in your lineage who has lived through the problem that you are living through right now. Which is interesting where this cosmic tree is here. This is actually the Hermit in the traditional deck, but I see this as like the tree of life, but also family trees, which ties into what I just said, that there is someone in your lineage that can help you through this transition. You just need to ask. But this is divinely guided, whatever you're going through, and it's to kind of get you out of like a victim mode here, where I said, like, scrap the whole rights thing and see them as privileges. Yes, everybody should have access to these things, but seeing it as a privilege is what's going to take us out of like a scarcity mindset that allows you to give to others. So that when you sort of reframe this, when you do have more to give, you realize it is a privilege, and it doesn't feel like you're giving up a piece of yourself to give to others. As we see, I either wrote or commented about this on my Substack, is how we treat homeless people. We question why we have such atrocities in this world, why our government, you know, does what it does to not only its own citizens, but to people in other countries. But it all comes down to, like, our government is a reflection of the people within it, that we see people struggling and we turn the other way. You know, the best thing we can throw at them is, you know, go get a job instead of, you know, helping them out regardless. But the next fad or craze comes out for some fucking product, and people would rather throw their money at that, which is essentially throwing their money in the trash, because as soon as it goes out of style and something else comes in, that's going in a landfill and they're buying the new thing. They would rather do that than extend that, you know, $40 fucking to someone on the street. That they would consider giving it to another human being a waste, but not purchasing something that's a trend as a waste. So sorry, this got kind of deep, but that it's reframing this in a way that you may be facing certain struggles so that you can see it's actually like a preparation for what you have coming in, where I said, like, my collective, there's very much abundance in the energy. There's a lot of miracles in the energy. And that if you're facing down something that feels like this kind of turbulence, it's to give you this perspective before all of this comes in so that you can really see. And this ties in where I have infinite paths at the back of my deck. This is correlates to the sun card in the traditional deck. This infinite paths, where I always say there are a million ways to get to a certain place. It's let go of whatever outcome that you think is going to be the best way to get things done, because it most likely isn't. And that when things have been removed from our lives and we get anxious about it, always trust that something better is coming in. Your anxiety is because you can't see what that thing is that's dropping in. You don't know what that is, so it's making you anxious. And it was something I talked to a client about today, is don't confuse anxiety with excitement. That a lot of you, there's an exciting energy on the other side of whatever transition you're going through, but you can't see what's being brought in. You're kind of blindfolded to it, and it's kind of freaking you out a little bit. This is confirmation again that you have good things coming in, and to call on where you've been pushed into a hermit mode. It's to reconnect you, where I said in my last reading, with your higher self, but also to your ancestral guides. And that trust that this is a divinely guided card, this Six of Swords. So trust that you're divinely guided through this process, and reframe what you are going through as we're going through a collective shift, where one that's going to be much more community-based. That if you're facing these kinds of struggles of like, I really don't know what's going to happen next, and it feels like an attack on my safety, this is because that's kind of the issues you're going to be tackling with the abundance that comes in with these beautiful new paths that are open to you. So if this resonates with you, let me know. If you'd like your own personal reading with me, you can head to the link at the top of my page. They're in my Etsy shop, and check out my Substack while you're there. Thanks.